Hi everyone, welcome to the Drilled In podcast. Here with your hosts Nick and Matt. This is the first episode of the pod and we're here to talk all things golf equipment from two Australians.
Irish guy.
Yeah.
How are we doing, everyone?
So this will hopefully be the first of many, and the podcast is going to focus on the equipment side of golf. There's plenty of recap pods. We're not one of those. We're here to focus more on equipment from two different perspectives, from a club fitter and a golfer.
Golf nuffy.
So we're here from two different handicap ranges, two different golf backgrounds, but still two people that love golf nonetheless. So Matt, I don't have to say thanks for joining me because it's your podcast as well.
Yeah, I know. It's a full circle moment for both of us.
Yeah.
Feels slightly out of the comfort zone, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can impart some words of wisdom along the way that, people at either end of the spectrum from a handicap perspective can walk away and go, that sounds like me on a Saturday, or that doesn't sound like me on a Saturday.
And that's the point. We wanted to come at it from two different angles. Yeah, let's crack on and see what we can do.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. So the first thing is we're going to call the opening drive, and we just wanted to go through a bit of golf equipment, either news or something that's happened on tour, specifically for equipment. So we've had the Masters 2 weeks ago and then Hilton Head last week for the RBC. Mm-hmm. Two very different golf courses and setups for equipment. You watched a little bit more of the RBC than I did.
Yep.
But we obviously both watched a lot of the Masters. I think the trends that we'll see, or we did see, were at the Masters, lots of high lofted fairway woods, right? So 5 woods, 7 woods, that sort of thing. Coming into the greens there with the elevation, neither of us have been yet in person, but we'll get to that.
Yes, being the key word.
Yeah. Apparently with the undulation and the slopes and coming into those greens, obviously as fast as they are, then those high lofted fairway woods are great for those, but also off the tee to the corners of some dog legs, making sure you're hitting that number to leave yourself a nice distance in. And then by contrast, we have Hilton Head where the wind is a big consideration. And not quite the open levels of control needed, but pretty close, to be fair.
Yeah, it was much narrower than Augusta, that was for sure.
Yeah.
More narrower than I even remembered what it being last year when I watched it.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing for our listeners is, 99.9999% of everyone that listens to this podcast, if we get one or two, are not going to play Augusta and maybe not play Hilton Head.
Yes.
But I think where that translates back to Saturday golfers is having more clubs in your bag that you can hit and you get a better outcome. Yeah, I certainly put myself in that bracket as a 16 handicapper. I carry more woods because I want more optionality from the fairways, whereas, playing with some of my playing partners at the weekend who are off, plus and low single digits, they go for a lower iron because they can hit that and they get more control out of it. So I think we can look at that club setup from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where you see, more higher lofted woods starting to factor into people's thinking in bags now.
Yeah.
Where you get seven woods hybrids and they're playing them more off the tee than actually even irons to an extent. Whereas Hilton Head this morning we saw the power of the iron, and that was what we were seeing into the wind, where Patrick on the 18th hole hit a 4 iron and it really just cut through the wind, but it was out how he could hit it. Whereas Scotty I think hit it was a 7 and it just got caught up in the wind and he dropped short of the green. So you can see from their perspective of how they set up, albeit I don't think that factors into any of our thinking to how.
No, but it's a good point that in the last couple of years, especially in the fitting bay, which is where we're heading to next, that has become very popular in the last couple of years, higher lofted fairway woods, right? To the point where we're even seeing some of the manufacturers drop a lot of their offerings in the hybrids. A couple of years ago, it wasn't uncommon for your TaylorMades, your Callaways of the world to have 3 different hybrid models.
Yep.
And now they're pretty much back to 1, if not 2 at the absolute most. And all definitely making more lofts and more models in those higher lofted fairways. Callaway will even go up to 9 and 11, right? So,
well, I think you don't even have to look at the Cobra rescue that you fitted me into earlier in the year. Where there's like 36 different ways of setting up that one club.
Yeah, 33 options in one hole is not bad, yeah. But we had this discussion even last week, right, with what you wanted in your bag off the tee to make up the 14 clubs. Firstly, you don't have to have 14 clubs. So
I can be a testament to that. I only have 13 in the bag.
And it can get confusing. That part of the bag is where you have the most options, right? You've got fairway woods, hybrids, driving irons. You've got driving irons with steel shafts, with graphite shafts. You've got normal irons that you can then put a graphite shaft into. Let's not go putting steel shafts into woods. Jimmy Walker showed that's not a good idea. But there's plenty of options in that space, right? And then even talking about the weights of shafts in those clubs, right? You can go as light or as heavy as you want.
I think, and a bit of a, an unapologetic plug, it's actually the power of why you get a good fitter.
Yes.
Because I can put my hand up and say we've all been guilty, and people are definitely guilty of, I really like that. I've seen X rocking it at the Masters or at Hilton Head. I want that in my bag.
Yep.
And you go to, your local store, your local fitter to get a club, and your mind is made up. That's what you want. Whereas I think actually having a good fitter say, well, that doesn't suit your game.
Yep.
You should be in this type of.
Yeah.
I think that's the real power. And I think I was probably lucky enough from my perspective with my golf where I wasn't brand specific. I just wanted the best clubs in my bag to get the best return on what day of the week that I played golf.
Yeah.
And I think, look, that's not necessarily going to be the case for everybody who's playing. They're going to be like, okay, I want ping, I want Titleist. And that's fine as well. But I think the power of a good fitter who knows exactly what they're talking about is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, and look, that's what we do at Earnest Performance, right? Brand agnostic. But it is a confusing part of the golf bag, for sure. And the options are obviously endless from every brand. And so, I think it's another thing to look at where you play your golf as well, right? For yourself, you're a bit more varied in going all over the place. A good problem to have. But some people, if they're just playing their same golf course week in, week out, twice a week, you can set up your bag for that.
Yep.
You can make sure you've got that certain club that hits that certain number on that hole. And that's something you talk about in the fitting as well, right? So where do you play? What are your turf conditions like? Generally speaking, in Melbourne, where we are, we obviously get majority of the courses having a similar sort of setup, right? Now, some of them are sandbelt, some of them are clay based, but we're still not in America hitting out of rough up to your knees, right? That doesn't happen very often. Thankfully, yes. So it's just setting up your clubs appropriately, and some people have a more sort of set makeup, and some people it's good to have options.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I think for everybody, well, my aim as well, especially, you want to go out and be able to enjoy that round when you get the opportunity. And I think having the right setup and the right clubs in your bag, is really important from that aspect.
Yeah.
Especially if, as you said, you're going out and you're playing that one course and it doesn't change week to week.
Yeah.
Having that right setup so that you walk off the 18th and you go, I actually want to take those clubs out again next weekend, as opposed to I never want to play this game again.
Yeah, or you're like, if I could just get another 5 meters out of this one club.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a massive change, but just that in itself is enough reason to go and get fitted and make sure you get the right shaft or the right setting or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think as the majors progress, we've had the Masters, and that's always the case, right? We get to see that because it's the same venue all the time, which is amazing. But as the other ones move, the equipment trends aren't as constant as that. Right. So traditionally, obviously, the open rotation is always windy, so you're always getting more driving irons there. And the manufacturers know that too. They time releases for that, right? They're driving irons and
yeah,
things
I'm sure
that.
the tour trucks in those weeks are loaded with more driving irons than woods and whatnot. And look, I think even you look at the Masters last week, and I was sitting there screaming that Rory should have pulled that 3-wood out, on 17 and 18, but he still went back to that driver. And I think that's just confidence in your equipment. But also that suited the course, albeit 18 was a bit of a squirrely one in the end.
Yeah.
I think the bag setup was less iron heavy and more wood heavy last week to get the most out of the distance.
Yeah.
And I even saw something during the week with Kisner, and he was talking about it, and he was like, out of Rory, that stat everybody saw, that out of the 91 playing in the event, he was ranked 90th over the Saturday from his driving perspective. But then, as Kisner pointed out, it didn't really matter because he was I think he was in the top 3 in terms of the longest hitters over the competition.
And the other one was strokes gained around the green. He was like first or second.
So you take that length, it gets you out of a lot of trouble. And then strokes gained around the green, especially at Augusta, you're probably dodging or getting yourself out of trouble pretty well.
Yeah, and we saw the contrast of Thursday, Friday to Saturday, Sunday. You can't do it forever.
Yes, yeah.
But enough to put together 2 really good rounds. And he did enough on Sunday. And you and I were sort of messaging during that last round, like you said, does he hit 3-wood? Does he hit driver off the tee? But at the end of the day, he got it in the hole. So
that's the aim of the game,
He's
right?
got the green jacket. And this time next year, we're not going to remember what club he hit on one particular hole necessarily. We'll just be worried about a 3-peat.
Yeah, well,
So-
there we go. I mean, as Jack Nicklaus said, he's going to be the only one that's able to do that come this time next year.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it'll be really interesting.
And as Freddie Couples said, he's like, he may never lose again at Augusta, which
Yeah, I think
less
that's
likely,
a bit
but very
optimistic.
cool.
Yeah,
Very
yeah,
cool.
I'm sure Scotty might have something to say about that.
Yeah, and especially seeing go straight back into it, like you said, at Hilton Head, right? That's pretty impressive to be able to back it up after such a big week for a major.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the others, like Lowry fell away in the last round last weekend, and this week was probably a bit more of a relaxed setting than the Masters. But, I think, look, Scotty's always going to be there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
I mean,
Still a
he's world number one for a reason.
Still a signature event and still a big purse.
Yeah, 3.6 million.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good. I'm sure Matt Fitzpatrick ain't going to be complaining about that.
Well, he had to get the status back from his brother who won a few weeks ago as well. Alex is doing pretty well.
Yeah, because
So-
they're playing in that partner tournament next weekend at New Orleans.
Oh, yes, the Zurich. Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So the two of them are going to play in the Zurich.
They might be hard to
So
beat.
it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
if Rory and Lowry partner up for that
Ooh,
again.
I haven't seen the field yet. Are they going? Do you know
haven't
if they're
seen
backing
it.
up? Yeah,
I
okay.
haven't seen
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, time will tell.
Yes.
But yeah, like having Alex playing really well recently on the DP World Tour, and then Matt's backing it up too. So.
I do love though that the commentary is all like, this is Ryder Cup style. Like even
Already?
this morning going into the playoff, it was like, this is really Ryder Cup-esque. And you could see the American fans were just getting right into it again. You could see that there'd been a few drinks had over the course of the day.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we're over 12 months away. It's like,
Yeah.
it'll be Ryder Cup to exist.
We're not starting that chat now, though. We're not.
No,
it's
no,
too
no.
early. It's too early. But the next thing we did want to talk about was going through some regular segments that we do want to have on the pod here. So the fitting bay is the next one, and we sort of covered that off with the chat about fairway woods and hybrids and driving irons. So I guess the next thing we want to go to is, we've talked a little bit about how that might change from me to you, and what that might look like. Like I said, not having necessarily 14 clubs in the bag,
Yep.
but also where you play and whether you want to set that up for your home course. Do you think there's anything else that would be, I know personally, I guess, those 14 clubs you can do a bit more with.
Yep.
Right. So personally, I can hit a driving up a little bit higher, put it forward in my stance, and try and hit that sort of floaty one into the green a little bit more. Whereas I think you'd rather go, okay, let's just take that club out of the bag and put in something else.
Yeah, totally. I think, look, where I draw that line instantly is, when I got fitted for my wedges, I put 4 wedges in the bag to give me a bit more optionality. And what I realized was between my pitching wedge and the 46 degree that I had in the bag, there wasn't too much of a difference in distance. So I just blew 46 degree out because it was just carrying a club for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Whereas it allows me, if at another point in time in the future, to put something else in there.
Yes.
Just haven't landed on what that is yet.
We'll get there.
Probably take 20 clubs at the way I'm swinging it at the moment, but that's all right.
Yeah.
So I think, like, from a perspective where, you might put a driving iron in the bag, for example, or another fairway would, I think from where I'm sitting, and probably more to our listenership, where the average golfer sits, it's probably going to be less about what's going to make an impact week to week, but is more what's going to get me around over the longer term, and reduce that handicap and allow me to actually enjoy my golf.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So going more for, say, the forgiveness of a certain setup,
Yeah,
as opposed
absolutely.
to what the course dictates or something else like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's something that I think, like, I carry 2 lob wedges depending on the course we're going to, setups and grinds. But yeah, I think it's really important not to overcomplicate it too much and just go, yep, these are my clubs. They're the most forgiving. I know it goes about 200 meters, say, for example, and give it your best shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like, I think, having played now for a while, I think that's probably one of the things I'd stress the most, knowing what your clubs actually do.
Yeah.
I think this year I went from Strixon to Ping and back to Strixon. And I noticed in between that my distances went completely out of whack.
Yeah.
The Pings went much further. The Strixons were more forgiveness. And in the end, we landed on putting graphite shafts into the Strixons, which transformed how those clubs performed.
Yeah.
But I think, really basic stuff like that for most people would make a big difference, as opposed to going, I need the latest irons, I need the latest woods. It's probably not a case of that for the average golfer.
Just knowing how far is a good first step.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that, like, we want to do here in the facility as well. But like that map your bag feature that TrackMan have, or any sort of launch monitor, is just going through that process like systematically, right? I see too often people go, I did that at the range, and you're doing it with like range balls that go 80%, and you don't know if the distance markers have been, equated to that or whether they're just raw distances. So I can't stress enough an environment where you're controlling as many variables as possible, right? Yeah. Even if it's just relative data, you're getting that data set to know, okay, this is how far it went here. So if I hit 8 iron here, then that's how far it goes on the golf course, right? It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but you just have to know what the conversion is and know what it was on that day. And hitting more than 3 shots, right? You got to get a few shots. Yes, you're going to have some good ones. Yes, but the strike should be, they don't all have to be perfect.
No.
And that'll give you yeah.
But look, I think the other part, you've been doing this, this is what you know day to day. This is your life and what you do for a living. I think for me, who's someone who just really enjoys playing golf and loves it, I think the more I'm hearing lately is just it's all going to be data. And, I think that's really interesting from just your, Saturday golfer in that with, the types of AI tech that is available and how cheap launch monitors are becoming. How much are people going to lean into this in terms of, well, what's my ball speed, what's my attack angle, all of this type of data that, people will have a $100 monitor that they just drop on the ground behind them on a Saturday morning. Does that take, for a traditionalist like me, is that just taking it that little bit too far? But I think everyone, look, it's the game that everyone just wants to get better. You get the bug, and I think we both can say we have the bug. You want every optionality available to beat your mates on the weekend, to shoot the best score you can shoot, and hopefully try and win a comp here and there along the way.
Yeah.
So I think starting with the basic data sets is what most people are looking for these days.
Yeah, we're hitting all the hard-hitting topics straight off the bat here, Matt, on the first pod. But I think, do you think it's more the stigma of dropping a launch monitor down behind you on a Saturday comp, or the cost of it? That's a question.
I think they're both kind of going out the window now. Like, I think you can pick up a launch monitor for $200, $250. Some of the what they describe as the cheaper ones coming through.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone really would bat an eyelid if you dropped one down on the ground on a Saturday morning. I think people don't even look anymore.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
There's such a want for golf, and I think the industry has exploded in the last 12, 18 months, thanks to Netflix, but just thanks to the game itself post-COVID. I just think people are just more worried about themselves and less what other people are doing.
True.
I think so. I think that element of it is probably
if the cost comes down, you think we'll see it more on the golf course?
Yeah, but
on the practice range.
Just because there's more players playing.
Yeah.
There's more people playing.
Yeah. Laura, yeah.
And,
I like it.
Social media, the ease of access to it now.
Yeah.
Whereas, before when a launch was a Foresight or a TrackMan, it was costing you $30,000.
Yeah.
And it was reserved for the pros, a whole different ball game. But I think you probably go on to Temu buy one. Not saying it'd be the greatest quality.
Yeah.
But there's probably something that fits all budgets.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. I think, you're right. I think it's something we will see more. I think like at your private golf clubs, I think there's some people still drop down a launch monitor, but we'll see. We'll see. Like you said, just volume, more people playing the game.
We'll come back in the next 6 months and we can report.
Yeah. But just more, like you said, more people playing the game means there has to be some more happening.
Yeah.
So, for sure.
And I think that's going to translate across equipment as well.
Yeah. For sure.
People are more willing to trial something, and if it doesn't work and whatnot, they move on to the next piece. It's not that they've spent X amount, a couple of $100, and that's got to stay in my bag.
Yeah. Facebook Marketplace is a wonderful place. Wonderful, but not so wonderful place sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, so we're not here to keep you for 2 hours. To finish up, Matt, we've got a few quick fire ones, maybe things you've seen on social media, maybe things you've come across with your playing partners. We're going to go dialed or OB. Mm-hmm. All right, so the one that probably comes up for me the most is everyone calling this time of year about the higher lofted fairway woods come Masters time, right? We are not playing Augusta National. Yeah. So, look, I understand it sparks a thought in your head to be like, do I need a 7 wood? But you've played 11 and a half other months at your home club without thinking about one. Why now? So I think, personally, OB. Don't do it.
Yeah, I think OB.
It's a two-way trade.
I think OB as well.
Yeah.
I think what happens is you just get carried away in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you can, you can, and you go, oh, okay, I'm just going to get it.
Yeah.
And then you need, trusted to go, just relax.
Yeah.
You don't need it.
Next week it'll be
You're
something
just-
different, so just get through this
Yeah.
week.
You've just watched 72 hours of golf
Yeah.
without a break. I understand where you're coming from, but you don't need it.
Yeah.
So yeah, OB for me.
OB for that one. Okay. Anything else you can think of that comes to mind for that?
The only other one that probably sits in that bracket is the mini driver.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yep.
So we've seen them. We've seen some of the pros carry them, and we've seen the benefits of them at Augusta National last weekend. Does it translate to your Saturday golfer? I'm yet to be convinced.
I am changing my mind on this. I was initially OB, but now I think more dialed. So I've found a lot more use cases for it in the fitting bay.
Okay, and can you explain?
Yeah, of course. So initially, my thought was just get a driver and cut it to 43 inches, right? If that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Because it's got a bigger face, 460cc. You know, why would you not take that extra forgiveness? But with the heads aren't designed to be at that length for the most part, right?
Yeah.
We'd have to make them too heavy, right, to get them there. So for a swing weight perspective, they'd need to be heavier to balance out like the rest of your golf clubs. And even off the deck, I think they're shaped a little bit differently on some of the models now to give them more versatility off the deck. So I previously thought just hit a shorter shafted driver.
So then for our listeners, someone like me who, the driver works, call it 3 out of every 5 times, and the 2 times that it's got a mad slice on it.
Yeah.
Are you now seeing that mini driver as a replacement or a supplementary to go with the driver?
Again, depending on the person, but I think for the most part, if I had to choose one or the other, because we're not sitting on the fence like that, we're going supplementary.
Yep.
Yeah. So still have a driver for when you really need to get just the distance out of it. You've got a bit sort of wider margin for error. But I've seen with a few players where they're like, right, my 3-wood goes this distance, and I either spin it too much or something like that, and they just need to hit a number, or they really struggle with hitting up on the ball.
Yep.
Right? Like you ideally should do with driver. Now, again, not a prerequisite, but something you probably should do to keep spin down and for modern drivers. So for them who hits down on it a little bit more, around that sort of, the loft and the design of the club means they get a better strike.
Yep. And then to put you really on the spot, random preference at the moment. Just on the mini driver.
Okay, all right.
Or one where you've seen, okay, that's probably the wrong question given the role that you sit within. The most adopted brand.
There we go. We can do
mini.
that. Okay, I think the TaylorMade goes very well. I think just having 4 movable weights is pretty good, and the sort of retro look is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have noticed that in the drawer. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, and the tour uptake as well.
Yeah.
Your Tommy Fleetwoods of the world playing it.
Justin Rose rocked it last.
Yeah, but we have seen this even just the last week or two. Callaway have brought out their Quantum Mini driver.
Yeah, okay.
So that'll be in the fitting bay shortly in the drawer, and that'll give us another option for that space. Right now, I think off the top of my head, we've got Titleist GT Mini, although with new GTS coming out, they might bring out a version of that. We've got the TaylorMade R7 Quad. We've got Callaway Quantum Mini. And we've got a Cobra Optum Mini as well. And I know Ping have got a prototype. I don't know if we'll see it at retail yet, but I mean, every brand's making one. Yeah. So it definitely
Which tells you they're here to stay. They ain't going anywhere.
I think so, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I
think everyone did.
Yeah, and I think they are gonna stay around for a while now.
Yeah.
At the very least. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, but Matt, I think that's first episode done and dusted. Yeah.
Yeah, short and sharp. I don't think anyone wants to listen to our voices, as you said, for 2 hours.
Not for 2 hours.
We haven't got to that level just yet.
But thanks for chatting with me.
Yeah,
and we'll do this again in a week or two, depending on what happens in the world of golf and just what you and I want to talk about.
Yeah, sounds
So
good.
we'll chat to you
Stay
then.
tuned. Thank you.
Cheers, bye.